Pesachim Daf Samach Zayin. Today's email comes from Yaakov Ben Trigger. He's a man who uses time very wisely. He says, I always wanted to go walking and finish Shas. Today, I do both together, walking between Caesar's Bay and the Verrazano. Thanks for a great cheer. Keep on poking fun of Hasidim, Sfardim, and Yeshivish people, and yourself. Yaakov Ben Trigger, thank you. The carbon tamed pushes off Tuma just like the carbon Pesach. In other words, if Roiv Klal Yisrael Tameh or the Kohanim are Tameh, you could bring the carbon tamed. The carbon Pesach itself, how do we know that it pushes off Tuma B'tzibur? Rish Lakish says, we learn from the pasuk, Yishalchu min hamachna kol tzarua v'chol zav v'chol tamei lo nefesh. The Torah talks about three types of Tuma, a Mitzayra, Zav, and somebody touches a dead body. Says Rish Lakish, the fact is, the Torah could have just said Tamei Meis, and I would have learned the Zav and the Mitzayra from the Tamei Meis, because the Tamei Meis is much less chomer than them, as the Gemara is going to describe later. The fact that the Torah says a Mitzayra and a Zav is to teach us that only a Tamei Meis pushes off Tuma B'tzibur and not a Mitzayra and a Zav. Says Abaye, where does it say in the pasuk a Zav and Mitzayra? Maybe one of the two. Why both of them? Why pick on two? Abaye learns from the pasuk Ish Kiyeh Tamei Lo Nefesh. Lo Nefesh, he says, is referring to an individual. An individual does not push off Tuma, and he has to bring his carbon Pesach on Pesach Sheni. But the Tzibur, they do push off Tuma, and they bring their carbon on Pesach Rishon. So why does the Torah describe three types of Tuma? Zav, Mitzayra, and a Tmei Meis? Because there are three camps. The Machne Shechina is the Hazara, the Machne Levi is around it all the way to the borders of Harabayis, and the Machne Yisrael, which is any city that has a wall, including Yerushalayim. A Tmei Meis, somebody touches a dead body, must leave the center red one, the Machne Shechina. But he can hang out in the Machne Levi and the Machne Yisrael. A Zav must leave even the Machne Levi, but he can hang out in Machne Yisrael. A Mitzayra is the strictest. He must leave all three camps and stay outside. Says Rav Chizda, but what if he comes back in? He's over Issa the rice. Usually when you're over Issa the rice, you get Malchus. Rav Chizda holds, and he argues on Rebuda, that in this case he does not get Malchus because there's something called the Lav Hanitek La'aseh. When the Torah gives you a remedy, the Torah says, go back out, so let him go back out, then he won't get Malchus. Similar to somebody that steals, he has a remedy. He can pay it back. Rav Chizda learns this from the word badad. Badad, lav anita vase. Rabbi Yehuda, on the other hand, says the word badad is already used somewhere else, and therefore I don't have this extra word for lav anita vase. And if the Mitzayra goes into Yerushalayim, even if he comes back out, he gets Malchus. Rabbi Yehuda says the word machaneim teaches us that Tmei Meis and a Zav, each one gets their own camp. Badad teaches us that a Mitzayra gets his own camp, and therefore the word badad is not extra. But according to Rav Shimon, badad is extra because I learned all three, like we said before, from Vayishalchu min hamachna. In the pasuk Vayishalchu min hamachna, it says the word kol three times. One by Tmei Meis, by Zav and Mitzayra. From the Tmei Meis I learned that in addition to Tmei Meis, there's a Tamei from a Sheretz. He also has to leave from the Machne Shechina. From the kol of a Zav, I learned that not only a Zav, but also a Balkari must leave the Machne Levi. The final third kol we don't learn anything from. It's because the other two have kol, so the third one also has a kol. Now the Gemara is going to describe why each one is more chomer than the other. On the one hand, ziva is more chomer than somebody that touches a dead body, because the ziva emanates and originates from one's body, whereas the tumah of meis has to touch something else in order to acquire the tumah. On the other hand, Tmei Meis is more chomer. It requires the sprinkling of the water of the para aduma, the meichatos. Zav is more chomer than somebody that touches sheretz. Again, because the ziva comes from his own body. However, when it comes to tum ba'inas, the zav is just like somebody that's tamei mish from a sheretz. Somebody that touches a sheretz ba'inas is tamei, so too a zav. On the one hand, a mitzvah is more chomer than a zav because mitzvah has priya prima, which is letting the hair grow long by mitzvah, cutting your clothing, and the isra of tashmish. On the other hand, zav is mitama mishkav and ma'ishav, sitting on something, and also a very chomer thing that if a zav touches a kli cheres, moves a kli cheres, typically a kli cheres can only acquire tuma from within its ear space. If a zav touches it, moves it, it acquires tuma. The shear of ziva is chasimas ama, to plug the opening, and that's larger than the shear of the mitzayra, which is kigris, the tzaras is the size of a bean. Rav Shimon learns from the pasuk by Yishalchim and Machna that there's three machnas. Rav Yehuda doesn't. So what does he do with the pasuk by Yishalchim and Machna? He learns the halacha that all three tumas mentioned in the pasuk, Tmei Meis, Zav and Mitzayir, are equal to the point that if one of them, for instance, the Tmei Meis, who could bring a carbon betuma, when he brings a carbon betuma, if the other two are over and they run into the Beis Hamikdash and eat the carbon Pesach, they don't get punished for that. Rebbe Yochanan also agrees that a Balkari is like a Zav, that he must leave two camps. He says another halacha that's not important to our sugya, that the mechilas, the tunnels under the Beis Hamikdash, don't require tumah. The question is from a brisa. It says that a balkeri is like a sheretz, like somebody touches a sheretz. Isn't it referring to that you only have to leave one machana, not two machanas, like Rebbe Yochanan just said? No. What it means is that he's mitama the tumah of einus like a sheretz, like somebody touches a sheretz, even by einus yutame, so too a balkeri. Yet that same brisa, the seif of it doesn't match the ratio, and that's not a problem. The seif says that somebody's boil nida is like a tmei meis. Over there, we're not talking about in terms of tumah, of how many days, because that the Torah says specifically 7 days of tumah. Over there, it is talking about like a tmei meis. He only leaves one machna, so too a boil nida leaves one machna. Have a wonderful day.